mental health is increasingly becoming very topical, very trendy amongst a lot of communities. Everyone is coming together to share insights and raise awareness. Fashion companies, record labels, media conglomerates, you name it, your uncle and your aunt and your grandma are coming together to regularly champion this issue and illuminate what is happening within the mental health space. Even more so, communities of color are majorly stigmatized when it comes to mental health. In many cases, the topic is taboo. 1 in 5 Americans suffer from mental illness, and African Americans are the least likely population to seek treatment. In fact, many Black people, men specifically, want to get help, but they don't have access to the resources to get the actual help they need. The stigma of mental health isn't new to the Black community. In fact, countless numbers of people, including leaders of the African American community, actually refuse mental care because of the stigma it creates. So, given the increased social unrest in the world, it's past time to change the narrative and properly provide resources in the realm of mental health. We can all work together to recognize and address this challenge, but to do so, we must understand where it comes from and why it is so ingrained in our culture. Again, why I'm excited for today. We live in a diverse world, and each day we interact with people of a variety of backgrounds. And the more we understand each other's differences that make us distinct, the more we'll understand that there's no shame in having a mental illness, regardless of your culture or your background. Today, we have an amazing set of panelists, creative professionals, and mental health advocates in the community of color to expose these issues and discuss how we can create change within our culture. It's a reminder that you are not alone. We don't want this to be a one-way conversation. Get to know the community. Let us know what you think. Feel free to also drop in some questions for the panelists, fill out the polls, just have a great time. We'll get started super shortly. Thanks to you again and everyone for being here. I'm about to introduce Dr. Siri. He's a special human being. He's a licensed family and marriage therapist. Some of you may know him from his Viceland show, properly titled The Therapist, where he interviews everyone from Katy Perry to Vic Mensa and Joey Badass. Again, soft-spoken, kind-hearted, amazing, deep individual. Dr. Siri, how's it going? So happy to have you.
Thank you. Going very well today. Doing very well. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. So should we go for it?
Let's kick it off. I'll get out of your hair. Enjoy.
Please. So let's introduce this very distinguished panel that we have today. So first we have Nina, and I'd like each one to quickly say who they are.
Hi, I'm Nina Westbrook. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm so excited to be here with Dr. Siri today and my fellow panelists, and I can't wait to dive into this extremely important conversation.
Our privilege to have you. Darian.
Hey everyone, my name is Darian. I am the co-founder of Heal House. Looking forward to having this conversation. It's definitely needed, and I want to say hello to everyone that's watching this evening.
Kaya.
Hi everyone, I'm Kaya Thomas. I'm a senior software engineer at Calm, the #1 app for sleep, relaxation, and meditation. And I'm glad to be here with you all today.
Emilia.
Hi everyone, my name is Emilia Ortiz. I am a healer, mental health advocate, and practicing bruja. I'm so happy to be here today. I know that I'm on a panel with such amazing people and everyone's just gonna love it.
Well, you're one of the amazing people. So here we go. So in this very special time, this pandemic, and all of you are professionals, what's it like for you to administer mental health in this particular arena these days?
I think it's been really fun and really interesting. I feel like it's been a learning process for me because as though I'm offering and lending support and resources, I feel like I've also benefited from going through those processes and being able to kind of practice what I preach, so to speak. And so seeing everybody kind of come together as a community and work through mental health issues together has been really inspiring for me.
Yes. Darian.
Yeah, I think, for those that aren't familiar with Heal House, what it is, it's a wellness space and a holistic cafe based in Brooklyn. And so we facilitate daily yoga and meditation classes. We also do a lot of different workshops throughout the week. And then we also facilitate private services such as therapy, acupuncture. We do nutritional assessments. So it's really kind of like a one-stop shop of all things kind of wellness and self-care. But specifically, about this question, administering services during this time, I think it's a very challenging time for a lot of people right now. And there's a lot of transitions happening, a lot of uncertainty happening. And I think it puts a spotlight on the importance of people taking care of themselves and having access to, this type of work, right? And I think we were doing this before the pandemic happened, but, people are really wrestling with this in different ways. And it's just really important for us to make sure that, our community and other communities as well understand that there are resources for them, that they don't have to go through anything alone. And that's essentially, what we try to implement at Heal House, just making sure people know that there's a space for them where they can, have a couple of different options to take care of themselves. But it's definitely a challenging time right now for a lot of people.
Glad you're there. Hiya.
Definitely. I would love to echo what Darren was saying. I think, this is a time that's been very difficult. A lot of people are experiencing that loneliness, and people are like trying to lean on community, like Nina was saying, and working at Calm and working on digital technologies that are trying to help folks with mental health it's been really incredible in this time, because people have been more open to actually seeking out mental health solutions. And I think that's one of the things that has been a good positive thing with us all, being quarantined and being in this pandemic, is people are being more open about their struggles. And I think it's actually helping really destigmatize some of the issues that people are going through when it comes to mental health. And they're being more open to use solutions like Calm and wanting to learn how to meditate and take better care of themselves. So,
Emilia.
I think everyone, answered that beautifully. I have been finding that during this time, as everyone said, more people are wanting to address their mental health, because a lot of our issues that may have been internalized are, rising up to the surface in these times. And, one in particular service that I've really been finding a lot of people have been seeking out with me is inner child work. Even as adults, so many of us in this time of uncertainty are having our inner child wounds come up to the surface. And it's really beautiful that so many want to work on that and address it, because, if we didn't have a moment to address this, I do think a lot of people may have, waited a bit more, and we all deserve healing, both in times of crisis and times when we're not in crisis. So as difficult as these times are, I do think that there is a bit of a silver lining, so to speak, of people having this push to address things that they deserve to have addressed.
I hear that all of us are servants, and that we also are part of the community. I really resonate with what Nina was saying, that all of us are learning in the process of serving our community. Not only are we serving the community, but the community is serving us as it elevates us at the same time. We must expand and grow, because none of us have ever experienced what we experienced this pandemic. So Darian, let's start with you. I know your own personal journey was integral in you starting Heal House. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So my journey into kind of the wellness world was a very interesting one. I didn't necessarily come from a wellness background. I used to do medical device sales for years, and I went through my own journey where I had met my father for the first time a couple of years ago, which, as you can imagine, was a huge transformational thing that happened in my life at that time. And I had posted about it on social media, and it started all these conversations with a lot of my guy friends who, for the first time in our relationships, were really being vulnerable and talking about different things for the very first time, because they saw me being, vulnerable and real about me meeting my father, right? So they started talking about different things relating to their families. Some of them were new fathers, and kind of the struggles of maybe family life, different things that they might have been going through at workplace. And it was all these different conversations that we were really having for the first time. A lot of times we were, prior to that, we were having a lot of surface conversations, as a lot of guys do. But I think this was a moment where they saw me being vulnerable, and it allowed them to be vulnerable as well. And all those conversations really started making me question, why, just as men, we don't really share emotions and don't really communicate the way we were doing in that moment. But then also taking it even deeper and questioning why we didn't have, spaces that incorporated therapy that would actually get someone like me to go, or, my boys that I was talking to, like, how do you get them to go to therapy, right? And so I started, questioning all of these things, and started really learning about the wellness world, of what was out there, and realizing that there wasn't really a space that I saw myself reflected, or felt that I could be comfortable going to. And, to make a long story short, Heal House was born out of these conversations with men, and wanting to create something that we felt was missing in the world.
I'm very impressed when men come to therapy to work on themselves. Rather than consider that a weakness, I consider that a strength. You feel the same way, Darian?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're going through a big transitional shift just in society, where these conversations are becoming normalized, amongst men, amongst brands. And, if there's going to be something that's, in the forefront of our consciousness, I would hope that it's conversations like this, right? So I definitely think there's a shift amongst men, and them realizing that they can, it's okay for them to show a full range of emotions like everyone else, instead of just trying to, show a fake range of emotions.
Yes. Saying the conversation with Nina, you're a licensed marriage family therapist. Congratulations. I know that it's not easy to get licensed. Is that correct?
Thank you. Thank you.
So congratulations on that. So you work with children, women, and fathers, the men. So you work with the family often. What are you finding that the families are going through during this very trying time?
Well, I think that families are all kind of experiencing this time in individual ways. You have caregivers and parents who are, experiencing a lot of anxiety and a lot of concerns regarding finances and keeping the family afloat. And then you have the children or the students, who mainly college graduates or high school graduates, who are experiencing a sense of loss about not getting to partake in those major milestone events like graduations and proms and things like that they've worked so hard to get to up until this point. And I think that rightfully so, these are all concerns, and that during this time, it's just so important to maintain an open dialogue about feelings and emotions, and keeping and checking in with our family members during this time. I think that when people, especially amongst the communities of color, like we talked about earlier, the stigma behind being vulnerable is something that we, like Darian mentioned, is getting better, and we are normalizing mental health issues a little bit better. But there's still sometimes a little bit of fear in reaching out and seeking out that help. So it's super important to really check in with our family members.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you're there. So Kaya, you have done something rather revolutionary here. You brought in technology to the field of mental health. Can you talk about that in terms of how this would benefit people of color?
I think technology has an important place, especially now, right, in this pandemic where we're leaning on technology really heavily. And one thing at Calm, I think that's really special is we really look to our partners and the different people that we're trying to bring into the app to create content. Um, One of the biggest partnerships that has been immensely really important, especially to the Black community, is our LeBron James partnership. And having such an iconic person who is toting mental fitness and showing that it's important to take care of your mental health, I think helps alleviate those stigmas. And so we're really trying to be thoughtful at Calm. The teams are working really hard to partner with really well-respected people in communities of color to help show everyone that mental health is important and should not be stigmatized, and it's normal to struggle, and it's important to prioritize your mental fitness. And that's one thing I think that's important for these technology solutions. You have to work with communities and you have to work with people who are already doing this work as well. So that's something that we've been doing to really try to create diverse content and really meet people where they're at.
Wow. So Emilia, you're a healer and a bruja. So you engage in a lot of different spiritual practices. What do those practices look like in terms of for the African American, Latino, and Asian community?
Well, as far as my personal practice, a lot of it is Yoruban based, as well as based in indigenous practices from Puerto Rico that I experienced, growing up, and things that my family and community practice. I have also gone on to incorporate Reiki into my practice, which is something that, the Asian community is especially familiar with and is becoming, more of a thing that a lot of communities of color are becoming more familiar with. I also provide past life regression and also, inner child work, as I mentioned, but also helping people of color to figure out and navigate how to connect their spirituality and their mental health practices, because I'm somebody who fully believes in, holistic healing, because when we look at the whole picture, we really can find, so many different avenues that can be utilized in our healing journeys. And it's something that I find is extremely important for, communities of color, because I myself, as much as I saw myself in, my own community directly, when I came to the mental health space, I did not see myself or people who were part of my community, growing up in the mental health space. And so for me, this was a way to not only connect things that have helped me and my family with mental health, but also to help others in the, of color community with addressing their mental health, because it's just so important. And like I said, holistic healing really does assist, and is something that, we deserve access to as well. And often those spaces can look very white and not as open to, people of color as they should be.
Yes, there's quite a few practices you have there. You've been studying quite some time, I see.
Yes, you gotta be versatile. Everybody has different needs.
You've had a lot of teachers, I see.
Yes, and I've been very blessed that they are, people of color, because that truly has helped me to navigate, this, I guess, space as a woman of color, and figuring out how to, not only create space for me, but to create space for others, so that they feel that they too should pursue this, to have even more of color healers that are accessible, and not something that you kind of don't see, which is what I also love about Heal House. It's so beautiful to see that more and more of us are, creating these kinds of spaces as a result of our personal experience, and knowing that this is something that our community is in need of.
Yes. So each one has made an individual contribution. I'd like to ask a group question. I have come to see in our community that the stigma really is if some of our family members have a severe diagnosis. And have any of you had experience with families that have had members that have really had severe diagnosis, bipolar or schizophrenic? And we as African Americans in particular, we may think that Aunt Kizzy's a little strange, when Aunt Kizzy really has a mental health disorder. And we don't want Aunt Kizzy, we don't want to label Aunt Kizzy, and Aunt Kizzy doesn't want to be labeled. So I find that's really a challenge. Have any of you experienced a severe diagnosis with your clients, your patients, and the struggles that go with that?
I would say yes. And I think that the biggest key, especially for those who are supporting or family members who kind of understand or recognize that there might be something going on that's more important or more serious, would be to empathize and to be more willing to go over and beyond to accept and understand what it is that's going on. I think that a way to kind of dive into that conversation or dive into that interaction or that monologue might be to start by normalizing these issues and making sure that it's understood that these are medical issues and they're not something that is based on opinion. It's literally based on fact. And I think that when you refer to the medicine and normalize these topics and these discussions, it might make it easier to dive into.
Yes. I think one of the problems too is that African Americans and people of color may not know where to go. Do any of you have any suggestions or resources that can point people of color to services they can receive, like in the county or the?
Well, I was going to also add to the original question. We're all kind of watching in real time what's going on with Kanye West right now, who's someone that's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and watching people's reaction to like some of the things that he does. And it reminded me this past week that we still have a long way to go with understanding mental illness and having compassion and care around that. And I know Kanye is kind of a lightning rod in a lot of ways. But we're literally watching someone with mental illness on full display, and it's been interesting seeing our community's response to that in real time. In terms of resources, Heal House is a resource. We do have therapists there, and if someone needs even deeper work, we can definitely point people in the right direction. But we do have a full list of therapists on site. But then we also have a lot of holistic practitioners and a lot of other services outside of therapy.
And even as a mental health practitioner, I don't know how Nina feels. I mean, sometimes our community is very resistant to psychiatry, but sometimes medication is necessary. What do you think about that, Nina?
I definitely agree. I feel like when you are doing anything, say an athlete, for instance, because we're a basketball family, so I'll use that as an example. There are more parts to performing at your best than just playing, practicing. There's also the preparation, there's the taking care of your body, the physical fitness and physical training that you must go through. And I think that when we're talking about our overall wellness and our overall health, there are many factors that play into what makes us the best that we can be. And for some people, that is fitness and exercise, therapy. And for some people, that also includes taking medication or other, and a combination of all of those things is what's going to help you get to that point where you can be your best self.
Yes, as a licensed therapist, there's sometimes diagnoses that are beyond our scope in terms of really bringing the best service and balance. That sometimes severe diagnosis medication is necessary. I know that's very much a stigma in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia, I know you had a special relationship with severe diagnosis.
Yeah, I've had personal experience as far as within my own family of this, and also with clients of mine and even friends in my life. And I'm often, when it comes to the friends in my life, I'm often who they do share this with and ask about, navigating it. When it came to my own family experience, I have to say it was quite frustrating, and also is part of why I do what I do, because I found that the stigma was, within my own family, and the denial. And the problem I really found with that is that they weren't being properly supported. We were not seeing the whole person and their whole life experience that is different. And even with myself, my whole experience with the world and personal struggles with mental health was not being seen fully the way that it should have. And so I did not receive the proper support. And when it came to understanding where that stigma came from, as far as, seeking out help or finding help, and there was a lot of, especially coming from a Puerto Rican family, there's this aspect of, you don't tell people your business. You don't tell people, outside the family, that kind of business, because you don't want the family to look bad. There's also concern that you are going to become a ward of the state, so to speak, and that even if your family advocates for you to be released, that you won't, that you'll lose your job, that you'll lose your kids, all kinds of things, very fear-based, and understandably so, considering the history. There's also an aspect of, we don't have those problems, those are white people problems, or, the issue of we're stronger than that, or, that people are, if they are severely depressed, that's about being ungrateful for what you have when other people have less. There were so many different excuses and so much denial that inhibited, members of my family from receiving the help that they needed, that could have greatly improved their quality of life. And so I wanted to destigmatize that,
Yes, thank you for that. So let's, we have 15 minutes or so before our question and answer, to where the audience can get engaged with us. So I'd like to end on a very uplifting note. And in our field of mental health, I know I have degrees, and how many classes have I taken? And I don't think I have taken one class on what it means to be mentally healthy. We pathologize, we know what it is to be mentally imbalanced, but what is it to be mentally healthy? Maybe we can have some parameters, some guideposts, some description, some understanding of what it is to be mentally healthy. So I'd like to hear from each one of the panelists. Kaya, we haven't heard from you in terms of what does mental health look like?
I think this is a great question. I think we have to look at it holistically, and what it means to be mentally healthy is going to look different for everyone. It's, everyone has a unique experience when it comes to their mental health, but you have to look at it holistically. So you don't want to just focus on one aspect of your mental health, like your emotional health, right? And look at your support systems. And I think it's really looking at all of the resources that you can take in your life, whether it's your family, your friends, whether you're leaning on technological solutions like Calm, and figuring out how you can really look at the whole picture and make sure that you're taking care of yourself from multiple perspectives. So you're getting enough sleep, right? You are engaging in things that give you joy, and you are erasing toxicity from your life, and really just taking care of yourself from multiple points of view, and not just focusing on one thing, right? Because you can be getting great sleep every night, but then during your day, you're having a lot of anxiety and whatnot, and stress. And so you have to make sure that you're looking at all the different aspects of your life and making sure that you're mentally fit in all the different areas.
Mm-hmm. So Darian, I really want to engage you with this, because men, we don't run to therapy.
Mm.
And what does that look like for us? I know male depression, I don't think is really out there. It's not in the DSM-5 for sure.
Yeah.
I think, you know, men have a lot of sex when they may get depressed. They may drink. So give us a concept of.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, the word that keeps, you know, coming to mind is balance, right? I think we all have a full range and set of emotions, and I think unfortunately, men aren't allowed, whether it's through society, to really show the full range of emotions that women are often able to actually express. And you know, I'm really optimistic that that's going to change. That men, you know, sometimes can be sad and you know, not have all the answers, right? And understand that is totally okay and totally normal. And I think once we start accepting that it's okay to have that full set of emotions, and you start getting to like your real truth, right? And real honesty, because now you're not lying to yourself and suppressing all these emotions. And then once you get there, then you can really start to like understand what things like, you know, really work for you when you are stressed and have different things going on. Instead of it lying to yourself that you're not stressed, acknowledging it, and then find out different, you know, sources and different things that could actually help you get to a more balanced place.
I think that's what I have seen in my work with men is that often I'll say, go into your heart, and they'll say, how do I do that? And that's very challenging for men. We're not socialized to be okay with our feelings and how to effectively express them. But Nina, this is really your arena of mental health. So what does that look like?
I think that I would have to agree with Kaya when she says that it's going to look different for everyone. But I think that some key things that we can do to be mentally healthy is to be mindful and to be adaptable. I think that we have to be mindful of the process that we're in our lives and take a mental inventory of where we are and make sure that we're able to point out and discover and figure out what the needs are for ourselves so that we can operate in a mentally well space, as well as adaptable. And I think that we need to be adaptable, because if we're not adaptable, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to transition and move through different parts of our lives and the ups and the downs that we're going to experience through tough times.
I think that's very poignant what you said, that what constitutes mental health has to do with the age and the time and adaptability. Like to do something which we did, say to have your rabbit ears on a television, probably is not so much, or to have a flip phone. I think you got to be, if you're too far ahead of the times or you're too far behind the times, we could get into a mental imbalance. I think we got to be right with the time and know what to do and how to adapt and how to be functional during this time. Emilia, do you have any contribution to that of what it means to be mentally healthy?
I think everybody, you know, really summed this up well. The one thing I would include is that when we come to a place where we are able to experience the full range of emotions, again, I'm somebody who's big on, you know, it's important to feel anger. It's important to feel all the feels. But when we can learn to engage with those in a way that is productive rather than counterproductive, and, you know, quote unquote, healthy for you as an individual, that looks different for all of us. But when we can come to that space, I think that is a, you know, good marker for understanding that you are in a mentally well space, you know, and what that looks like shifts throughout time, as you said.
Yes. Well, we're at our question and answer period here. So we have our first question. How can we use social media in a way that strengthens versus threatens our mental health? Jake asked the question. Which panelists would like to tackle that one?
I'll just say, you know, I think we're, you know, so many of us, we're all on social media, but I think, again, balance, knowing when something is too much, knowing when you're comparing yourself to other people, especially that part right there. I mean, I think there's so many people on social media, and we get caught up in like comparing ourselves to strangers that we don't even know. And I think that could be unhealthy. So just understanding that, recognizing that, and, taking a break from it when you need to. But we all love social media. I think none of us are going to completely get off of it, but just understanding the importance of like balance and not having overkill with it.
I think that's a great point. And I want to add that social media, first off, I have this strict policy. If it doesn't make me happy, I unfollow really quickly. And so one of the ways I think that we can utilize social media is to gain inspiration. If we see people who we feel are inspiring us, or they're doing something that we are interested in or we would like to try, there's no shame and there's no reason why we can't, hone in on what it is that they're doing and utilize and learn from them the tools that they're given and the things that they have to show and offer in a way that can benefit us in our own personal lives.
Okay. We have our second question. Can we heal mental illness without medication? Well, I'd like to tackle that. I think there's some diagnoses that go beyond the scope of mental health therapists and practitioners. Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. These are diagnoses that may have a biological component. And of course, psychiatry does not have all of the answers. And we have some very negative relationships with the field of psychiatry over time. So the psychiatrist you have to work in a very special way with the psychiatrist to make sure the medication is serving the individual, that it is not making them too exhausted, too tired, and get the right dosage. But there's some diagnoses, I think medication is integral, and that's my perspective. Next question. For Kaya, what is Calm doing to help build a diverse audience?
That's a great question, Jessica. Thank you. I think one of the main things is ensuring that the audience who's using Calm feels like they're reflected in the content that's available on Calm. So making sure that we are hiring diverse writers to write more diverse sleep stories, bringing on guest meditators who are working in communities of color and who are people of color. And we're really trying to be thoughtful of making sure that we can diversify our content library and the partnerships in that we're doing, and some of our celebrity partners and things like that, and organizations that we're partnering with, to make sure that we are really dedicated to diversifying our content library so that the people who use the app feel that they're represented in the content that's reflected in the app.
Great. Question 4, Ashleigh, how does your diet affect your mental wellness? Emily, is that your arena?
I do think that diet plays a big role in many different ways when it comes to mental illness. And I think it's a bit more complicated than your diet directly affecting your mental health, because as far as, food accessibility goes, that's a bit more, complicated, and we eat foods for comfort and things like that. Those can produce feel-good chemicals, but they can also make us very lethargic. But I do feel that at the same time, our diet can be supportive of our mental health. For example, when it comes to anxiety, there is often a big, as far as physical symptoms go, it's not always just chest, related, where you feel tightness in your chest and things, but you can also have digestive issues. And when you are overly stressed, you can have digestive issues. You can be nauseous and all these kinds of things. So what you eat can support you when it comes to that journey of eating foods that are better for your digestive health. Eating foods that have, whether it's that they have ingredients or they're fruits that are known to assist with nausea and easing those symptoms, I think it can be a supportive, piece to your mental health.
Just to tag onto you a little bit, I can think of 2 clients I had in the past, and one gentleman came to me. He was extremely depressed, and he had been to every practitioner that had been to 2 handfuls of practitioners, and no one could rid him of his depression. And I sat there and I tuned into him. I said, "Sir, when is the last time you've had a glass of water?" He said, "Oh, I haven't had any water in 2 months." I gave the man 2 glasses of water. He drank from there in the session. I never saw him again. One lady came to me, and she was just very anxious and just very upset. And I was like, oh my God. And I did my inventory. I couldn't find anything wrong in family of origin. And I said, "What are you eating?" She says, "Nothing but fruit. I have a good diet." I said, "Do you think that's why you could be a little fruity?" I never saw her again. Yes, so food is very integral.
Yeah.
Now, our next question: how important is it for a healer, mental health provider, to learn about a client's cultural background if it is different from their own experience? Benjamin. Nina.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is important, especially in communities of color, to understand and have a good idea of the background of your clients that you're working with. For one, it helps to build and maintain that therapeutic relationship and the trust, which I think is a huge factor in any healthy therapeutic relationship. There has to be a certain level of trust between you and your client. And then I think that we, as individuals, we don't experience everything, and so there's no way that one person might have experienced everything that they might see in a client. But it is important to listen and to learn your client's experience, and so that you can figure out the best way to help support them moving forward.
I think it's very integral. I'm seeing that I'm getting a lot of Asian clients these days, and they feel so comforted when I can understand that, also within their culture, you don't talk about what's going on with someone outside the family. I've come to understand in the Asian culture, they're not taught to really express feelings or to recognize them, to acknowledge them. The Latino culture, it's always very endearing when you can understand the love of family within a Latino culture. That's very important. So yes, culture is very important. We have another question. How do we live with uncertainty while we desperately seek out certainty? Elijah. Oh, that's a good one. Who would like to tackle that?
I think this is a question I think we're all obviously kind of coming to terms with right now. There's so much uncertainty. And I think this is a time really when it's important to really become more mindful and figure out how to create a mindfulness practice for yourself, so you can center yourself and be able to realize that you are not in control of everything, and there's no way that you can be in control of everything. And using mindfulness as a way to really ground yourself so that you can be okay with that lack of control and still be able to move forward in your life.
I think you're absolutely correct. I've come to understand the more that I surrender to the unknown, the more it becomes known to me. That I just get quiet and I don't know what to do. Eventually I'll learn.
Yeah.
So do we have another question? Tips for supporting loved ones who are struggling with mental health and high anxiety. Andrew.
I think
Oh. But we're both so polite. Like, one thing I would really suggest is tapping into your empathy when it comes to that and empathizing with them, and also validating where they're coming from and being mindful not to gaslight them about their feelings just because you may not be able to connect with that because you're not experiencing it or not experiencing it in the same way. We don't, nobody necessarily has all the answers or has the full capacity to be able to support a loved one as much as we may want to. But that's why I feel that the first step, at least, is to empathize and connect with them in that way and be mindful about the dialogue that you're creating with them and do your best to hold space. I think that is a good place to start.
I've heard that word throughout from all of our panelists today: empathy, compassion. And if we don't have empathy or compassion for our clients, we cannot be a healing agent. And I think all of my panelists are very well aware of that. Darian, maybe you can tackle our last question here. How can we add creativity and the arts into how we connect with clients? Wow.
I will say that, first of all, I'm not a practitioner, so I always make sure to kind of defer to practitioners that actually do the work. But what I can add is that, what we do at Heal House and what the space is, it was created with the intention of making it as accessible as possible. And a big part of that accessibility had to do with the music, right? The music that we play in the space. So like when you first walk into Heal House, it's a cafe and you're greeted with, music that I like to think is cool because I'm a big music head, but, I'm a big arts person and music person and absolutely, I think those things are important. And I think before I even knew what wellness was in the wellness world, my way of healing was really through music. I just didn't realize that there wasn't a name for it back then, right? But my first connection to anything wellness was my connection to music and the arts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I hear things such as open mics. I hear poetry. I hear music, of course. I mean, there's such things such as dance therapy. So the arts could be included. Well, I think we're at the end of our panel here with our very distinguished individuals and very accomplished. I'd like to compliment you all and thank you for being here.
What's up, guys? Boye from The Future Party here. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We've got some amazing content coming your way. Don't miss out. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for more notifications. Check out more on The Future Party in the description. All the things. Peace out for now. See you later.